What's up, you guys? Sean Ross Sapp here for the Fightful.com podcast, Friday edition with Shane Helms, as always. You know him from WCW. You know him from WWE. Now you know him from TNA. And he is one devious son of a bitch. Now the manager of an X Division champion. Shane.
Two-time manager of an X Division champion. Let's just clarify that. But let's start this off like we did last week with the acknowledgement of the T-shirt. T-shirt of the week this week, Macho Man.
I got the Cassius Clay going, or the Muhammad Ali going.
Clay. It was hard to top Bob Ross from last week, so I figured I had to go deep with Macho. So yeah. But yeah, I took my boy Trevor Lee once again to the X Division championship, bringing violence to that division, which it needs something. So,
well, we're going to talk about some of the changes in TNA as well. But this week we're going to do a mailbag episode. We usually try to tackle a topic each week, but I felt like there were a couple of things currently that Shane could lend some expertise to. So we'll talk about that as well. But first, we'll talk about some of these changes to TNA wrestling. Scott D'Amore's back. We're seeing the influence of Jeff Jarrett being back, and I thought that when Scott was around and he was in control of the Knockouts division, things were a lot of fun back then. Well, what's your reaction to Scott D'Amore coming back?
I've worked with Scott. The only time I actually ever did anything with Scott was in the short Global Force storyline that we had in TNA. And actually on his shows, and I forget the name of the company, it's up north, and I really like what he was doing, you know. So I mean, my experience with Scott's very short, very small, but it's you know, all been positive and good. So you know, I can't really judge people until I actually work with them. I like him as a person, but I've never worked with him before. I mean, and the same thing I guess I could say for Jeff. You know, Jeff's been a friend of mine for years. I've known him since WCW, but I've never like worked with him in a boss, you know, a type scenario. So I mean, I'm looking forward to it, seeing where we're going with this.
You look back at the first time I was exposed to Scott D'Amore was TNA Wrestling. I think in 03 or 04, he was the manager.
Now, when you say exposed,
Jesus, Shane,
I got to keep this shit on the up and up, man. All right, go ahead.
It was Team Canada in 2004, and you had like Teddy Hart, who is perhaps the craziest fucking guy I've ever interviewed in my life. Bobby Roode. We see where he's at now. Eric Young, we see where he's at now. Petey Williams had a fantastic run. Like, I love Petey Williams in that TNA X division. Tyson Dukes, I think it was. He was in the Cruiserweight Classic. There were a lot of names that came out of that. So I'm interested to see what role he'll have there. I've heard he might be on the creative team. That remains to be seen. But the Fight Network, who I would imagine isn't going to feed bad news about TNA, considering they sort of owned a damn company, revealed that he was
one would hope not.
Yeah, because so when they publish a news story, I'm like, well, I think we can go on this. I think we can run with this info. Apparently, he was instrumental in getting this Pro Wrestling Noah partnership going on. What are your feelings on the Pro Wrestling Noah partnership and some TNA guys maybe appearing next month?
I think that's great. I mean, I think it's very important to have relationships with other companies. It's something I've pushed for from my very first meeting with TNA Creative. You know, I've had ideas about using other companies to, you know, we're really stuck in this mindset that every company has to be just their own guys on the show. We're really stuck in that. We've built this wall around ourselves. And had this idea about what if there was a wrestling show that was about all of wrestling, you know, and if you can't do the whole show like that, maybe just a segment. You know, when I watch ESPN, I don't watch it for just one sport. And even if it was about one sport, I wouldn't watch it for just one team.
You watch it for the spelling bee.
I do watch it for the spelling bee. That does humble me a little bit. You know, if I ever think I'm feeling a little superior intellectually, I go watch that and I just take my ass back in my room and cry. But you know, but I mean, especially with how the internet's opened everybody's eyes to all the different talents all over the world, like we really don't have to be handcuffed and placed upon ourselves. So I've always pushed for that, and so yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of this. I don't know a lot of guys from NOAH other than the Killer Elite Squad. I know them. I actually got to work with them. Me and Colt Cabana worked those guys, Lance Hoyt, Davey Boy Jr. Well, I knew Davey Boy from WWE. I knew Lance from WWE. I worked them both there as well. So those are two guys I would like to see come do some stuff in TNA. Of course, Lance has been there before, but I think that's an exciting proposition. He's a lot better now than he's ever been. And not saying he wasn't good before, but he's definitely improved. And Davey Boy's great. So that would be something cool.
Well, I think they're in New Japan now. I think they got.
They're not in NOAH at all. Then they're still not.
I think they got pulled. I think New Japan pulled them. So
when did this happen? See, maybe I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about then.
Well, this just happened like a month ago. This is just like New Japan pulled a lot of their guys, and they had Suzuki Gun go into New Japan, and now Minoru Suzuki is a top New Japan guy. So they pulled, and that hurt. But I like the idea of this. There's Nakajima. There's Shizaki. There's a lot of good talent in NOAH still. So I'm very interested to see how that goes. There are also a couple things. Now, Shane, I don't know the extent. Actually, it's one of the questions, the extent of injuries in the ring. But we got a couple of interesting injury situations here. Paige has had neck surgery a few months ago.
What kind? You know what kind?
She hasn't revealed what kind. But Alberto Del Rio said it was 3 months ago, and she'll be out until April, May, June. So that the kind remains to be seen. Now, she's out there doing jiu-jitsu practice with Alberto. So if it was 3 months ago and she's doing that, it wasn't too bad. He was on the MMA Hour with Ariel Helwani, and he's the president of Combate Americas. And he said, yeah, I wouldn't mind her doing some MMA in the future. And when I tweeted out that he said that, man, the reaction I got was insane. Like, people acting like he was forcing her to do it, like she would never be able to do it. Like,
why do they think he's forcing her to do it?
I don't know. It's
okay.
weird.
You're saying they just interpreted your tweet like that?
Yeah, like because
you go fight MMA, woman, or I beat your ass. He did.
No, the way I worded it, I said he's pushing her into MMA a little bit, but it wasn't like shoving her, like maybe nudging her in the direction of it. And it seems like something she's interested in based on her tweets. You've had a broken neck. You've had surgically repaired neck. How old were you when that happened?
That was in, how old am I now? I'm 42 now. I'll be 43.
31. This
year. And so it happened in 2008. Was that when I had it? Shit, I can't remember.
So you were in your
2008. Yeah, I was
mid-30s,
37.
Mid-30s.
Yeah, mid-30s.
That's something a lot of people
I just did some terrible math. So you jinxed me by saying I was bringing my expert opinion earlier. So now I'm already fucking up. I can't even do simple math.
What was bumping like after that for you?
Just as terrible as it was bumping. Bumping's never good.
Yeah.
Like there's this, when you're young, you just don't feel it as much. It's like every tackle in football hurts you, whether you actually acknowledge the pain or not. Your body's going through some shit that it shouldn't be going through. So, it took more of a toll, obviously, after the spinal fusion, with nerve damage, nerves heal slower than anything in the body. So it was definitely rougher. But, I remembered I was doing jiu-jitsu afterward, too. And there wasn't a lot of impact with that at all. The takedowns in jiu-jitsu aren't slams, not generally, not unless you just get fucked up. And I wouldn't get fucked up. I might get like judo throw, might be the worst type of thing you would get, a judo type throw. But a lot of jiu-jitsu takedowns are very similar to wrestling takedowns and like single leg, double leg type things. Real impact on my neck. Actually, it was helping cardio wise because it'll wear you out cardio wise, but very little impact on your body in relation to bumping.
And a lot of judo throws, at least in my experience, you land on almost everything but your neck. You land on your hips, you land on your knees, you land on your elbows. Also, I think a thing that a lot of people are overlooking, there are several things. One, Combate Americas ain't the UFC. They can throw her in there against, like I said, a soccer mom, and she may be able to just beat the living shit out of them. Also, she's 24 years old.
Oh, yeah.
24 years old. That's a thing. And people were like, MMA on that neck? And I'm like, you guys think that bumping 4 nights a week is a lot better?
Oh no, physically, the physical toll of pro wrestling would exceeds MMA.
Yeah.
It just does. I think you get a lot more. You probably get a lot more cuts. You get a lot more superficial cuts in MMA. But yeah, like I said, that's just surface stuff that you can take care of. The brain injuries, I think, there's no way to say which one's worse, because bumping, having your brain bouncing around in your head, how does that compare to getting punched in the head? I don't know if there's one that's worse than the other, but as far as the rest of your body, pro wrestling by far gets it worse.
There's some things that, like, I'll see the Performance Center and several schools doing, like they'll have them wear the headgear when they bump now, just to prevent any trauma to the back of the head. Some people wear mouth guards when they train to maybe kind of lessen that impact. So, I mean, there are some steps that are being taken. Back to
I know in the beginning when you start bumping, you get headaches come a lot more frequently, and then your body kind of, whether it's a defense mechanism, whether it's something you just get used to, they'll go away a little bit. So maybe the headgear's for that. But that's the same thing in boxing. I don't know if I can't remember if you told me you boxed at all, but you boxing, like the first month or so, it's just a headache every night. I mean, anytime you're getting punched in the head. But after a while, you kind of get numb to it a little bit, but it's not like it's not doing the damage, but for some reason, your body just kind of
get conditioned.
Yeah.
We also have Seth Rollins in WWE. He has a knee injury. What kind of knee injuries have you incurred in your career?
I had a tiny one in WWE for a little while. Didn't require surgery. The only surgery I ever had came in my 25th year. Tore ACL on my right side. Ooh. And that was really because I was overcompensating. I had the ankle fusion on my left. And so I was just kind of overusing my right side a lot. And just, like I said, 25 years in the game, it finally said, fuck it. And I had a complete tear in my ACL. And that was really tough to come back from. And I know that's what Seth Rollins had initially. Is it the same knee?
Yeah, it's the same knee. MCL tear, we hear. Now, that's anywhere between 2 to 8 weeks. What I've been told is they're optimistic he'll be back for WrestleMania, but they don't want to go and promote it 1 week after he gets that done, because in 3 weeks he could step on a blade of grass that doesn't lay the right way, and his knee's messed up again. You never know.
Yeah, that's a delicate situation. I mean, you got to be careful with this stuff.
The example I keep bringing up.
Came back too early and stuff. And too, like Seth Rollins does a lot of stuff, well, at least he used to, coming off the top where he lands on his feet and just takes a lot of the shock right on his knees. So you're going to have to get away from that. That stuff just tears your knees up. I see guys working out in TNA like before the show, and they're out there doing all this stuff, and either taking bumps or doing flips and landing. And I'm like, y'all need to, it is the old vet, which no young guys ever listen to. I was a young guy. I didn't listen in either. Stand it a little bit more now, but I'm like, I'm telling you, this is hurting your knees. Whether you feel it or not, it's hurting your knees. That bump card thing, that's a great metaphor. There is going to be one day when your body says, fuck it. I've had enough of this. And whatever it is, your knees, your back. So don't be doing that shit unnecessarily. So he's going to have to smarten up about some of the stuff that he does.
We're going to get into some of the questions that we have. I think we'll do this probably once a month. We will just collect questions and answer. Almost anything goes. Obviously nothing that's going to get people in deep shit. But actually the first question, somebody says, Sean and Shane, what are your worst injuries in the ring? I've only had like 24 matches. All my injuries are from MMA. But Shane, you've had probably thousands.
I get the neck fusion is the worst. The couple of really bad nose breaks that I had, and I know some people, they hear nose break, they don't think, because you can bust your nose and that's kind of technically breaking your nose, but mine were pretty traumatic. So I think I was telling you I had to blow my nose like this.
Oh,
but the spinal fusion was the worst. But long term, what it does to your brain and stuff like that, my brain in there bouncing around. long term, that might be the worst, but it's hard to tell. You know, I'm still pretty functional at this point in my life. So,
how'd you break your nose in the ring?
Well, the thing is, I never broke it. It was broken for me as a gift.
Yeah.
The first time was actually Shannon Moore. It's a pretty funny story. We were 3 count in WCW, and he was doing a moonsault to the floor on a group of guys, and I was down there to help base catch. And he didn't have on knee pads, and his skinny ass little knee went right through my hands and hit me right in the face.
Do I remember you wearing a face mask for a little while?
Yeah, in WCW, and that's why.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, and I never, you know, it hurt bad. It was one that hurt bad. Like I've been tagged before, and it didn't hurt like that. So that one hurt pretty bad. And I looked up at Evan. I go, I think I broke my nose. And Evan does this like Kramer face. He's like, I'm like, gee, thanks, jackass. And I pulled my hair down because at the time WCW had a policy they couldn't show blood on TV or anything like that. They would pan the camera away real far, like they're shooting from the cheap seats on an iPhone or something, you know. And so I remember I pulled my hair down and finished the match. I had to go in there and do something too, take more bumps, and my face is all jacked up. But yeah, I ended up wearing that a while. One of those I forget what fiberglass type things.
The Rip Hamilton face mask.
Yeah, I wanted to do a gimmick where my face was insured by Lloyd's of London, and so anybody would get in trouble if they punched me, and that was going to, you know, I wanted to do that, and I wanted to get Evan and Shannon to get in on it, but we, you know, it's one of those ideas the creative didn't come up with it, so we can't use it. Let me see I know I broke it again at some point. I forget who did it. The worst one though was Paul London. He we were in Australia, and he went to do a leg drop and tried to add some kind of silly pike into it or some shit, and just landed right on my damn face.
Ooh.
A leg drop of all moves.
Yeah.
Fucking leg drop. And it was, man, I was just bleeding all over the place. I was like, you motherfucker. And I was like yelling my ass off too. Not in pain. I was angry about this because like I was a cruiserweight champ. You know, we had some stuff coming up for Mania, and I just knew that this had fucked up something. Right away, I knew that this was bad. And too, like you know, that, like I said, I missed Mania for all of that, and so
that's rough.
But I had to there was a third one. I can't even remember how I did the third one, but that one with London was the worst one. They heard, you know, the office heard that I broke my nose, so they booked me to wrestle Chris Benoit because, like I said earlier, you know, you find out, you know, nose break, you don't think it's that bad. You think it just be swole a little bit. And I got the TV, and Stephanie McMahon gave me the same look that Evan Courageous did. She's like that. She's like, oh well, we might. Well, too, like my ears stuffed, and no, I had to get my sinuses stuffed with all this shit. And I'm flying back from Australia. We did from Australia to LA to Dallas to Mobile, Alabama. Mobile is where TV's at. And every plane when I was on got smaller, and the pressure was just worse. So my head was swollen up so big, and you couldn't like pop your ears because my nose was all jacked up. And so I had these things jammed in my ears, up my nose. It was fucking terrible. And I get the TV, and like I know surgery's in my future. Like there's no way I cannot have surgery. And one side ended up being 90% collapsed. That's how bad it was.
Ah.
And but like I said, they had me booked to work Benoit that night. And Stephanie actually suggested that we just scratch it. And I was like, no, you know, it ain't like it could get too much worse. You know, I'll get through the night and let me go home. And I was like, you know, that's that old dumbass wrestler mentality. Let's use it. Let's use my personal trauma to tell a good story, to tell a good wrestling story that fucking nobody's really going to appreciate in the long run, but let's do it anyway. So, and then Chris didn't want to do the crossface.
That's what they'll say.
Yeah, Chris didn't want to do the crossface. They were going to finish me with the headbutt.
Yeah.
The diving headbutt. And I was like, man, if you don't do the fucking crossface, you're going to look like a pussy. It's going to hurt no matter what. Just do the fucking thing. And so
how'd that feel?
Yeah, it fucking hurt. But, you know, when we went out there, I was like, man, you know, just do it. We'll get through it. I know it's coming. You know, fuck it. We'll be fine. And we did it. And there you go.
Has anyone ever shot on you in the ring or tried to shoot on you in the ring?
Oh, hell yeah. When I was coming up, I mean, my first match was in 1991, and there's no cruiserweight division at all. It's non-existent. You know, they would have like junior heavyweights, but those guys were all pretty big too. So, I mean, you talking about I was 130, 140, really small kid at the time. And just so many of the big guys didn't want to work at all. And really that big man mentality. And yeah, a lot of guys would try to rough me up. Ended up in a lot of fights, quite, more than just a few, where I would have to go in there and the guys was bullying me. So I'd punch them in the damn face and then we're off to the races. But I always did pretty well, and I just built up a reputation, as far as this kid's a scrapper. He's going to fight back. So, I mean, is a real bully mentality. And, I think we've discussed on here before, I had that mentality that, you can bully me if you want, but I'm coming back. I'm going to fight and we'll figure this shit out one way or another. But, I ain't going to let you walk all over me. So, yeah, it was really tough my earlier years. I mean, there's no Hardy Boys around. There's no Rey Mysterios. Fucking Brian Pillman was the light heavyweight champion on TV. He was 230.
A former NFL player.
Yeah. Yeah, it was very difficult. And two, like down south, luckily amateur wrestling wasn't that big in North Carolina. So, I had 7 years of an amateur background behind me to help me out. And so a lot of these guys in there, the big guys, they had never did any kind of amateur at all. So I could grab them and take them down and kind of do, handle myself pretty good. It's actually how I became friends with Manny Fernandez. He saw me beat the shit out of this big guy one time. And it was one of Jimmy Valiant's students tried to rough me up, literally said it was a tag match now. My partner was a big guy. We were the serial thrillers from my Omega days. My partner's, 6'4", 6'5". And we're talking to him, said, don't worry, Big Mike will get you down. I'll wait till he gets you down. I'll come in, keep that heat because we're the heels. And he was just like, look right at my partner. Didn't even say it to me. He's like, I can't sell for little man here. Oh. And I was just like, okay, motherfucker. I was like, and still I was trying to be professional. Like, man, don't worry about it. We work together all the time. We team together all the time. Don't worry, it'll be fine. And so I get in there. He don't want to sell at all. Like Mike gets him down. But because the little guy's in the ring, he's just going to no-sell eye rakes. Like he's got superhuman eyes, and shit like that. And it just got to a point where I had enough. And the next thing you know, I'm beating the damn shit out of him. And, man, that's how. Then we got to the back and I was like, you want to go again? Let's go. And I was over there ready and, fucking locked and loaded. And fucking Manny Fernandez.
So did you absolutely love that shit. Do you get any heat for that early in your career, or is it all on him?
On him. It was all on him because everybody there saw everything. Wasn't even nothing that could be argued. And I just being that me too big, me can't sell fucking shit. It's just so stupid. It's just a stupid concept to have.
Oh, and I would imagine it was even worse before MMA was a thing.
Yeah. Oh, really bad. Yeah. I mean, that was just the thing. If you're big, you must be able to fight. It helps the business, but if you take that shit too seriously, some guys believe their own hype. They get some big wins in pro wrestling and think they're like real fighters in the street and shit. So, a lot of pro wrestlers are tough, but I've definitely run across some that are a bunch of bitches.
What are Shane's thoughts on chair shots to the head?
Hate them, especially if I'm getting them. I always put my hand up, man.
Did you see that Cody Rhodes spot from Ring of Honor?
Hey, that's on them. If the guy wants to take it now, I'm not going to tell anybody not to do what they want to do. Like if I'm in charge of a company, I saw it. If I'm a president of a company, I don't know if that's something I want to put out there, but at the same time, if that's what that guy wants to do, that's what he wants to get bashed in his fucking head with a chair.
Make him sign something.
It's not what I want in my life, but who am I to say, unless I'm in that authority position, who am I to say don't do it, So, yeah. I mean, if you're talking about like Rock beating Mankind's head out, which is, pretty famous head bashing incident. I mean, back in those days, man, when we didn't have quite the sight, I mean, it's common sense now and something everybody should have known that bashing yourself in the fucking head isn't a good idea, But a lot of guys just don't think about it. When you're young and invincible, man, you just don't think about injuries. It never crosses your mind. And if it does, it's a fleeting thought. Like, yeah, man, we'll go ahead and do it, I mean, I used to jump off of everything. They called me in the Omega, I was the insane bump machine because I would go jump off a damn drink machine. I was jumping off 18-wheelers, whatever there was around, I would find it and jump off of it and do whatever. Jeff Hardy could have that shit. Like, yeah, you can have that now. That's all you. I don't want to do that shit no more.
Yeah, that chair shot was horrifying. Not on TV or anything. Will there be a wrestling version of the MMA AA? That's an MMA Fighters Association, which apparently hasn't went anywhere. Do you think that fighters or wrestlers will ever do an association or a union?
Probably not.
That's pretty much the answer I expected to get.
It might be. Yeah, it might be needed, but I doubt it'll happen.
Now, this is a pretty broad question, and we get it more than any other question. The best ribs you've seen. Which it's funny because somebody did it and they combined the word best and ribs was together, and it said best tribs. And I'm like, well, I know that trib is slang for women scissoring. And I'm sure Shane's seen his fair share of that on the days in his WCW days. So you can approach that.
I've never even heard of tribs. So that's something new on me.
I appeared on a show called Trib Live. Justin LaBar used to work for the Tribune, Pittsburgh Tribune or something, and he had me on there. And somebody tweeted me, and they go, does Tribune Live realize what that's slang for? And I Urban Dictionary'd it, and I was like, oh, no.
Well, that's a new one on me. I was thinking you were going to say the Tribbles or whatever they were from Star Trek.
Hey, maybe they had something going on. I never watched Star Trek.
They're furry. You never know. I wasn't big into like ribbing people or anything like that. You know, I didn't like fuck with people too much. Nothing like where you would like hide their clothes or, you know, cut their gear up. So I kind of stayed away from all that. I saw one time, and I know Umaga was involved in it, and I can't remember if he did it or somebody did it to his car, but it was freezing. Maybe we were in Denver or Utah or someplace like that, and they put motor oil all over the guy's windshield. So then it froze. So you had this big sticky ass layer of frozen motor oil all over the guy's car. I think Ray was in that car. Ray Mysterio was in that car too. And then one time too, we passed Bob Holly. I was driving, and it was with Harold and Kumar, also known as Jimmy Yang and Daivari.
God.
And so all three of us, and I passed Bob Holly, and it just, you know, whatever, just kind of like not cut him off anything, just say, just I got in front of you. And now Bob just, he floors it, man. I can't even see his headlights. He's so close to the car. I'm like, oh shit. And so I start taking off, and we're going down this highway, and we're just, I mean, I'm going as fast as this damn car would go. And he's right, like I said, he's right on me because we got the exact same car. Same type of car. So they're going to be, you know, similar in speed. And he's back there, you know, he's a professional racer. So he's all calm and collected. Jimmy Yang and Daivari over there screaming like fucking Thelma and Louise, and the damn car's on fire. And I was trying to act cool, but I was like, holy shit, I can't hit the brakes because he's right there. If I hit the brakes, he's going to hit me. So I got to fucking go. And finally he just like put up his hand and, you know, tapered off a little bit. We slowed down. So I don't know if that constitutes as a rib, but you know, it was kind of me fucking around and then him outdoing me. So I guess it does fit in that realm of things. But I would hear things about, you know, breaking off toothpicks and guys' car locks on the, you know, the car door and shit like that. But
it's mean spirited.
You know, a lot of, I was never all into that stuff, man. Like just being a prick, you know.
I put clear gelatin in a friend's.
I can be a prick, but I'm generally a prick to my buddies, and something we can laugh about. Not like this, not to be really vindictive to somebody I don't know.
I put clear gelatin in a friend's toilet once, and then he took a crap in it, not realizing. That worked pretty well.
So you went through the effort to make clear gelatin? Like you made some Jell-O?
It was me and a friend that plotted it. He had been trying. He did some weird stuff to us. Like he cut like right sleeves off of our shirt. I was like, all right, dickhead. We nailed his shoes to the ceiling too with a nail gun. That was fun.
Yeah, guys. I play like the circle game. That's what I would do. You know, that's the extent of mine.
You got me on Facebook a couple weeks ago with that post. Well done. Did you ever go to wrestler's court?
I was never charged with anything. I went to one where charges were levied and I was a witness, but never anything against me. I was never. I kind of always had good professionalism and locker room etiquette, so I never really got called for anything.
The follow-up question was, how was Undertaker during these?
He was the boss, Like I said, there was only one I saw that was really bad. And the girls involved were crying and shit. I was like, man, I got to get the fuck out of here. This is depressing, That's just not me. I don't want to be around sad and depressed people. I'm here to be happy. So yeah, but we did one in TNA. I want to say we talked about this. Did we not talk about this on one of our previous? Yeah, involving our dear Grado. Hysterical, and we're all swore to secrecy on what happened, so we're gonna keep that code. But it was fucking hysterical, and we just had a blast. And those wrestler courts can be fun and bring the locker room together, and sometimes they're used to police little dickhead shit. But sometimes like I said, I've heard of them getting out of hand, and then it's like, man, I don't want to be around that shit.
Here's a question that I have. Does your lifetime contract with Inoki still hold up in Japan?
I think so. I think it does.
Would you be able to do Noah if they ask you to?
I don't know. I might get in trouble. I don't know what the fuck happened there. I did a couple of shows for IGF, and I can't work for nobody else now. I don't know. I don't know what the fuck happened. So
interesting.
Hopefully as a manager and not as the Hurricane, I might can get out on a technicality.
Yeah.
Especially since they hardly ever run. So
I won't drop any names, but I think you may, if somebody who came into the last tapings may be able to help you out with that. But I don't want to reveal that person because they haven't appeared on TV yet, and I don't want to do spoilers on this show because it's dickhead stuff.
It was discussed.
Okay. Okay. Best says Shane's best talent outside of the ring, Sean's best talent outside of writing, podcasting. Kicking up shit on social media, I think, has been a pretty good one for both of us.
Oh man, I'm slaughtering people left and right.
Oh yeah.
So that's great. It's great,
while you're out there sucking Obama's night, from what I read earlier.
Night.
What's he talking about? What is he talking about?
Everybody all these weird people that come up on my Facebook fit a certain criteria. They can't spell. There's that. Sentence structure is fucking non-existent. They all look unhealthy. There's people that look healthy. So they look physically and mentally are just fucking shot, and they all love Trump. Nothing like that one today wasn't anything. It was about. I was happy for Sami Zayn out there. Sami Zayn is of Arabic descent. A lot of people don't know that. And he's one of the evil Muslims that isn't fucking evil. He's a good human being. And it's kind of talking about him, And all I did, I put up a clap, clap, clap.
That's
I put
it.
The emoji for clapping. Trump supporters talking about, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, I didn't even say anything.
Yeah.
I said nothing. I used 0 words. If I had a dime for every word I said, I would have no dimes. So
a good one was Sammy needs to stick to wrestling and not talk about stuff he doesn't know about. And I was like, oh guy.
Yeah. What
did he talk about that he didn't know about?
What would a guy of immigrant descent know about an immigrant band? Yeah. That's absurd, man. The whole political climate in this
it's
weird.
Country
right now is really bad.
Somebody called it fake news. It was an article from ESPN.
Yeah, about a person that actually exists, not the Bowling Green massacre. This is a real person going through real shit. Yeah.
Let me tell you, I live in Kentucky, and the Bowling. What is it?
That one chick is a reptilian. I do believe that I'm onto something with that. She's one of the reptilians.
Kellyanne Conway?
Yes, and she's confusing illegal aliens with space aliens because of the reptilian war with the Greys. It might be all false, but it's a theory I'm working on.
So what would your best talents be outside of the ring other than kicking up shit?
I got a couple different things. I mean, I'm kind of a Renaissance man. I like to do a lot of different shit, man. I make apps.
Really?
I was one of the I was the first wrestler to have his own iPhone app.
Hey,
WWE jacked one of my ideas.
We might get you in touch with the boss man, Jimmy Van. He might be interested in that.
Our company made a couple financial apps. I was one of the original podcasters, the Podfather, they call me in certain circles that I invented. I like doing a lot of different things, man. I like writing. Just wrote an article for SportsIllustrated.com. Should be up today, as a matter of fact. But
Nice.
This will come out on Friday, so maybe it'll be.
We'll link to it
earlier. We'll link to it. Biggest talent? I don't know, man. I kind of do everything. I'm a funny motherfucker. Is that a talent, being funny?
You're pretty funny. I'll give you credit. Writing and podcasting is pretty much all I do. I would say, honestly, being able to see people who maybe don't have the experience that are talented. I think it's maybe a talent of mine, seeing other people's talent. We got Anna Bauer, Alex Pawlowski. I can't say that I had an eye for talent for Shane because I used to listen to his podcast and I was like, he doesn't have a podcast now. He needs a podcast now. Let's get him on a podcast now. So yeah, I think I
got a good talent for coming up with great ideas, but then somebody else will do them better. That's kind of the story of my life. I'll come up with a great idea.
There's a market in the world for that. There's, I think it's fine. Least favorite match you've ever had, both of you. Oh wow, okay. Shane, least favorite match you've ever had.
I had a match with William Regal in Mexico that was dreadful.
Really?
And it was it was dreadful. And I'm using the word dreadful politely because it was worse than that. it was pretty much any time I've ever been in the ring, I've always felt like I can make something out of nothing no matter what. And it was one of those matches. I don't know if it was travel fatigue, but he wasn't on his game. I wasn't on my game, and it just wasn't working. And I just never really have been in that position, And Regal's also one of my favorite opponents ever. One of my favorite matches in my entire career was with Regal in England. Me and Chavo against Regal and Dave Taylor. So it wasn't really him. It wasn't me. It was just that day, that night, it was the Atlanta Falcons in the fourth quarter was what we were. And shit just fell apart.
It's weird to think of you two having
it happened.
Having like train wreck matches, period, especially at that point of your career, much less with one another.
Yeah, well, too, it was in that ECW part, so he wasn't like in bumping mode. Like I remember that. Like I remember him saying, I don't really take good front bumps these days. I don't really take good back bumps either. And I was going,
oh no,
what the fuck am I gonna do? I don't really want to bump either, motherfucker. I had a spinal fusion. Yeah.
So was that in your head all the time? Like I want to bump as little as possible after the spinal fusion.
Oh yeah, that comes with age. No matter what, you start to just, it just starts. It's one of the things too why older guys are better sellers. And a lot of the vets don't understand that. Why don't these young guys sell? And I'm like, do you not remember how you used to be? Shit didn't used to hurt me. I could have the same match today. But 10 years ago or 15 years ago, that shit wouldn't have bothered me at all. Today, I'm gonna be like, fuck. It wear and tear. It gradually builds up. So that happens to everybody. And then you become a better seller because it actually is hurting a little bit more. To how to get more out of everything. That comes with, age and experience. That nothing but age and experience teaches that. So
I remember Billy Robinson once at a seminar said, if it really hurts, just really sell it. He's like,
I see so much of that today. Things that really hurt and the guy jumps up. It's fine. I'm like, why the fuck? But at the same time, I've done it before. So
yeah,
I try to look at it like that. That's why, it's one of my things that helps me as an agent because I'm able to realize that I made these mistakes too. Like I did this. I made this mistake. I know where your head's at, but try to look at it like this now and it'll help. And it's working so far.
I can't wait till we do the full show about agenting because I'm very, very interested to see your
I'm going to tell you, I can't give away all my secrets.
Oh, of course not. Of course not.
All my secrets.
I would say my worst, I put an arm wringer on a guy and he took a face bump and I knew I had to get the fuck out of that match. He was real bad. So I tagged my tag team partner in who's my wrestling coach and he just pinned him. He just pinned him. Got out of there.
We had one match as a serial thrillers on the Indies, And we were the babyface that night, me and Mike Maverick. And we're with these two guys, and they got this kind of like a PG-13 hip-hop gimmick. Mm-hmm. And one of the guys I was in there with, we did a spot where I did a roll-through nip-up. He was going to counter. He did a roll-through nip-up. But when he did, he broke his ankle.
Oh,
he nipped up, he rolled it, boom. And like the follow-up to that spot was supposed to be that his partner runs in and tries to clothesline me. I duck, and there's my partner, Big Mike, right behind me to clothesline him. Well, when he breaks his ankle, I look at the guy and I tell him to come in, his partner. So he comes in, throws the clothesline, I duck, and there's Mike. And that guy was just all out of position, and Mike clotheslined him right in his damn chin and knocked him out. So we're a minute and a half, 2 minutes into this match. One dude's unfucking conscious, and the other dude's rolling around screaming with his ankle broke. And me and Mike are just standing in the ring looking around going, all right, what you want to do now?
That would be a good topic for us to – that'd be a good topic for us to talk about, on-screen injuries in wrestling and how – because, I mean, you've seen some shit in your day. Sid snapped his leg in half. And whew,
I was there for that. I'm strangely there for everything. I'm like one of the watchers. What is that? What was that TV show? Fringe. Remember Fringe? The bald-headed guys with the hats that are in the pictures for everything? That's me. I'm in the background for every crazy shit that happens.
Oh, man. iOS or Android?
Oh, iOS all day.
I'm an Android guy.
You fucking look like an Android.
Thanks, man. That's nice of you.
That's good. That's a compliment, man. You'll live forever. I'll be dead in a couple of years, a couple of weeks.
What is the worst untrue rumor in wrestling you've heard about yourself?
About me?
Yeah.
Well, hell, I don't know. I used to hear, it was always you just assume everybody hooks up with everybody. I would hear a lot of different stuff about girls I supposedly hooked up with.
Because we know ain't nobody hooking up with Shane Helms.
There's a lot. Some of them were true, but I would hear some really weird ones. But I don't think I ever heard anything too bad. I gave it a shot. I don't know. I don't think I ever heard anything too bad about myself. So I don't know. I guess I would need some examples.
That's true. I'll see if I can dig up some old dirt on you. Maybe that'd be a good show too, like old rumors about Shane. But I don't remember like in time, like hearing like Shane Helms is partying backstage. I don't remember reading a lot of that.
No, I always did my stuff at the clubs and the bars. I always kept shit separate from work. I know there's a big rumor about me and Ivory for a long time, and me and Molly as well. But those were two that were just professional.
I miss Molly Holly.
Mm-hmm.
That finish she had, I love that finish. That just like, it was like a front flip senton onto a standing opponent. That was cool.
Yeah. We
get this one a lot, obviously. Would you ever return to WWE either as a wrestler or producer, agent?
Would I? Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Things don't work out in TNA. You always look for other work and stuff like that. So if the opportunity presented itself and it was something that would be beneficial, the travel thing would be difficult for me now. I don't want to be away from my family. The TNA thing works really well for me because of the travel. So
I wonder what people expect you to say. Nah, fuck them.
That whole thing about working with one company, you can't work for another is really fucking absurd. It's really crazy. Like, of course
especially today.
Yeah, like there's 1,000 major companies in the world to work for. There's a very select few. So if you leave one, you try to go to another one. That's common sense. Kurt Angle, was TNA not supposed to take him because he left WWE?
Imagine if Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, EC3 were like, nah, I can't do this because I work for the other one.
Yeah, it's just so crazy. Yeah, so who gives a shit?
Who were your favorite people to travel with in wrestling?
The favorite car ever was me, Coach, and Christian. As far as just fun, what we did, three guys that got along. Coach always wanted to drive. Me and Christian never did. So that was perfect for us. And Coach would do that too because he knew we were out there bumping. So he would, that was very cool of him,
I was about to ask, do you think he did that because of maybe his place in wrestling, and he was trying to do you a favor. And
yeah, no doubt. I mean, and we just all got along. We're great friends. I stay in touch to this day. You know, before Coach, it was me, Christian, and Lance Storm. We rode together forever. And Lance was kind of the dad. He would always print out maps everywhere. This was like before GPS. So he would, you know, whatever the fucking MapQuest thing was, and just have all these printouts. And Christian, I think, was generally in charge of hotels. And I would just make them laugh. Like, that's really all I would do. And all the cars I was in is I would just be in the back and talk shit the whole ride and make everybody laugh. And I would take naps or read books. But I was kind of just the entertainment guy. And, you know, the Canadians adopted me a lot. So there was a lot of riding with Edge, a lot of riding with Jericho.
Hey, they're paying you for this podcast.
There you go.
And
so yeah, I was
your TNA job now.
And paying for TNA job. So yeah. And Toronto was the first city to chant Hurricane's name. So I never forgot that. I even rode with Raven for a little while. He didn't want to ride with anybody, but he, you know, we rode together for a little bit. It's very important, you know, of course, Matt and Jeff and even Amy for a little while, you know, you got to ride with people that you're close to, that you like being around and shit like that. So that worked out good. But me, Coach, and Christian, that was my favorite. And we were the car. That's what we were. And people couldn't be trying to jump in the car. Had to jump in, and it lasted like a weekend. We tried to help that young kid out, and then he had to go.
Who was it?
Rhino.
Oh.
Because, you know, I remember like somehow, whatever it was, I needed like $2 for a burger or something. You know, and when you're riding together, one day it's going to be your turn to get the gas. And that's how we all did it. You know, somebody would get the gas, you know, this week, and somebody would get the gas next week.
Yeah.
Now, maybe the trips will be real short this week, and they'll be real long next week. So it's never going to equal out. Now, you can be those guys that sit there and try to divide every single thing 3 ways, or you can just go, listen, it's all going to work out eventually. Who gives a shit? This is your turn. And so we were all cool about it. So there were probably 100 different points that where one of us owed another one $10 or $20 or fucking $100. We didn't really care. But I know I owed Rhino like $2. And that motherfucker's like, hey, man, you got that $2? Oh, like God. The next day, like, no, I ain't got that fucking $2. Like, I was like, are you serious? And you know, he's a sweetheart guy, but he's a penny pitcher, you know. And you got to be with people that are like mentality. Me, Coach, and Christian, you know, we're not out there squandering our money, but you know, if I owe you or you owe me $10, more than likely I'll forget it anyway. You know, I know I do that shit even to this day all the time. Like, unless it's real money, I don't really, you know, I'm not going to haggle somebody over a couple bucks. But yeah, so we had to get Rhino out of there.
Rhino was super over on SmackDown this week. Like,
Rhino's always been, he's one of those guys that's always been over, man. No matter where he went, it was always over.
They were begging for him this week. Also, very awesome to see the direction that Coach's career has taken and how good he is at that. I remember I used to listen to him. I think he would fill in for like SVP or Russillo on the radio sometimes. And I had tweeted him a line that he used because, you know, anytime a guy who doesn't have an athletic background talks about football or anything, they'll be like, stick to this, stick to that. And I was like, you need to tell them that you have had pillow fights in front of more people than these quarterbacks have played in front of.
Yeah, he's a good guy, man. He knows his shit too, though. You know, I mean, there are people, you know.
He's fantastic.
And I understand that. I understand that mentality. Like, there's one little guy that talks sports. I haven't seen him in years. So he's either not there or passed away, but he's a little old guy with like little blonde hair and little glasses. He looked like Chicken Little.
John Clayton.
Like, and no matter what he said, I couldn't buy it. I'm like, who the fuck is this? And I knew that was me. That was a flaw in my character. I was like, I just can't listen to any fucking thing this guy's saying. You know, I listen to boxing, and you got Roy Jones Jr. over there and commentary. That to me adds something. You know, George Foreman used to be real good in there, just throwing in zingers every now and then. So yeah, I mean, having credibility definitely helps, but every now and then you'll get somebody like Coach that just really studies their work and puts in the extra time, and it's just believable.
That's why I always say, like, people ask about getting into commentary. I encourage people who haven't wrestled or fought at a high level. You want a gun to be a play-by-play guy, because if they'll always prefer to have a color guy or an analyst be a former fighter, former wrestler, as they should. They can lend, like, just little things. Like I bring up Elijah Burke, the Pope, during a street fight. He says, well, the reason people don't wear their wrestling gear in a street fight is because it's expensive. They don't want to tear it up. It's little things like that that add so much to the presentation that I wouldn't, I would have never known that. So, I mean, I think that's very, very important to have somebody who's been there in a color role or an analyst role. Your favorite move besides the vertebraker, Shane?
Probably the Eye of the Hurricane, just because it's one of the ones I invented, one of the ones I'm more known for. So, I mean, I invented like 12 or 13.
What are some of the other ones you invented?
The airplane spin into the where I dropped the guy's face on my knee, which I called a top spin, face buster. The floating neck breaker, which everybody and their mama does these days. I did that. The running into the curry. Nobody was doing that. Neck breaker from the top. And that
was a hell of a move. I saw that when I researched your Royal Rumble stuff. I saw you hit like a neck breaker off the top, and I was like, a damn.
Yeah, that shit hurts.
Have you done that one since the neck surgery?
I did it to Paul Burchill in one of our ECW matches. Yeah, that shit sucks. Gut wrench superplex, and I never seen anybody do that. So, yeah, I was real good about trying to. That way, I was never accused of doing other people's stuff if I had a bunch of my own stuff. You know, if you weren't in the company, now I would do it. You know, like the Shining Wizard. Of course, that was Muda, but I kept the name and I changed up the version of things. And the vertebraker, of course, is the Kudo driver. So, but I always liked inventing my own shit.
Who had the better creative mind, Vince Russo or Ed Ferrara?
I don't know. I never really worked with those two guys like so much that I could really have a gauge for that. I mean, Vince Russo is the bigger name. We can definitely say that. But Ed's kind of always been there. So, and I don't really know the scorecard of who came up with what.
How about this? Who's the most creative person you've met in wrestling for wrestling?
Me, by far.
Jesus, of course you would. Of course you would.
Not even close. Other than that, probably Matt. Matt is as creative as they come.
You could argue that two of his gimmicks were probably 1 and 2 for best gimmicks of the year last year with Big Money Matt and the Broken Matt.
Yeah, so I think me and Matt are up there. And you know, people have no idea how much I've helped other people. You know, just come up with other gimmicks, other moves, other sayings, other T-shirts. You know, I get a great deal of enjoyment. But like too, you know, honestly, a lot of this shit that comes to my head, like I'll just be sitting there and it'll pop in my head. I don't know where that shit comes from. You know, I don't know if it's a healthy obsession with pro wrestling or an unhealthy one, but you know, I get some really crazy ideas, and if they're not for me, I'll give them to somebody else.
Last question for this month's mailbag. Somebody said that they always wanted to know how you prepared your segments as the Hurricane. Did you ever read comics just to develop the Hurricane's persona?
No, the Hurricane was just I kind of developed the life on its own, the way I spoke, the crazy things I would say, and it kind of just developed a life of its own. I mean, I don't know really any superheroes on TV or books that talk like I did, so I was just, you know, throwing shit against the wall, see what sticks.
And as you always said, it wasn't a superhero. It was a guy who thought he was a superhero.
Yeah, so I had to be a little bit more, you know, I didn't want to be totally Batman from campy Batman back in the day, but I wanted to kind of touch on that a little bit, you know, make fun of the Clark Kent Superman thing, which is how the Gregory Helms thing came about. But I wanted it to be fun, you know. I mean, I knew it was like, this wasn't going to be a gimmick. I knew from day one it was ever going to be this serious gimmick. I wasn't going to be the Dark Knight. You know, there's going to have to be some comedy and entertainment to this thing for it to work. You know, if I went out there every week taking it too fucking seriously, you know, it wouldn't have worked.
So what you got going on this weekend, Shane? Anything? You just gonna sit on your ass and stir up shit all weekend? So we can.
Well, I need a rest after last weekend because I got to be honest, boy. I ate a big slice of shit pie on my UFC picks last week.
Oh, you did.
5 of the 6 fights on the.
Who you got? Let's talk about that. Who you got this week? Because this is a sneaky good card. Wrestling fans who who are listening to this and don't know about MMA, they'll be like, well, I don't know any of those people except for Holly Holm and Anderson Silva. Well, this is a freaking awesome card. It's a really good card.
It is a really good card. I'm going to take Holly Holm and Jacare, I think, are pretty solid picks. Oh, yeah. I'm actually going to look at that line. If Derek Brunson has some kind of crazy underdog score, it might be something worth for the people out there listening to put just a little chunk of change.
Unless he fights like he did against Robert Whittaker, because that is exactly what Anderson Silva wants.
And that's the exact opposite of how to fight Anderson Silva. So I'm hoping that he learns. I'm saying this is a bet that you might could have fun with. Nothing to put the house on. Not saying that, but this is how you make money in betting on fights. You find something that's a big underdog where there is a chance, because Anderson Silva's chin has been tested recently. You know, in his last couple fights, he's been hurt almost. You know, Bisping checked him. You know, of course, Weidman checked him. Weidman knocked him the fuck out and was hurting him even before Anderson broke his leg in the other fight. So, and Brunson's a hard-hitting dude. So if that line is good, that might be something I'll toy with. If it's close at all, then you go with Anderson on that. The Jim Miller fight is interesting. That one will take a little bit more deliberation. But I think Jacare is an easy pick. I think Holly Holm should win that one.
That Miller-Poirier fight, that's going to be good. That's going to be good. And a lot of people, they look at Anderson Silva's record and they're like, well, technically he doesn't have a win in 5 fights. He fought Cormier on like 2 days' notice. I think 6-7 weeks after surgery he had. And Daniel Cormier slugged it out with him a little bit. And then he's like, wait a second, this is Anderson Silva. Let me clinch real quick. You could argue that he should have beaten Bisping if he wouldn't have clowned around and jumped on top of the cage. He did beat Nick Diaz. He broke his leg in the Weidman fight. Weidman was going to win that second fight anyway. He was taking him to school. But that first Weidman fight, Anderson Silva was looking bored in that second round to the point to where he got caught. So he hasn't been exposed that much. But if Derek Brunson fights like he did against Robert Whittaker, he's not going to make it out. Also on that show, Jermaine Durand, I don't think she's nearly active as she should be, but she is so underrated. Cyborg wants no parts of this woman. Cyborg has turned down 2 or 3 fights with this woman. Much different style than Holly Holm. That's going to tell a story. Also an underrated fight. Jared Cannonier, an up-and-coming
So who are you picking?
I'm picking Durand. I'm picking Silva, Jacare.
Okay.
I'm picking Poirier. And I'm going to go with an upset. I'm going to go with Jared Cannonier over Glover Teixeira. But, that's just because Glover Teixeira, the type of knockout he experienced against Rumble Johnson, that might be one of those change-your-life knockouts.
I thought about that, but I think he'll come back. I think Glover will take that one.
He's certainly capable of it. I mean, he's that top level, but that UFC light heavyweight division, as I said to Showdown Joe this week, we are one Daniel Cormier knee injury away from having Shogun Rua fighting for an interim title.
The one that got me last week was, the 2 short notice fights. One guy was outweighed by almost 50 pounds and knocked his opponent out. Like, that is crazy as hell. The OSP one, I was talking with my I was texting back and forth with Conan, Disco, and KG from Keeping It 100, and I was like, I said, I got no confidence in OSP. I said, I picked him, but I got no confidence. That's the least confident pick I had. He's still living off the hype of the Shogun fight. And he's just one of those guys that doesn't seem like he has a killer instinct and seems bored in there sometimes. He's just like he's sparring. He's just going through the motions. And I was like, man, go out there and beat this guy's ass. Like, if MMA was a work, OSP would be a champ.
Yeah.
Because physically looks amazing. But, same thing with Arlovsky. If MMA was a work, Arlovsky would have had about a 2-year run as the UFC champ. Especially Jones, back in the day.
John Jones had a great breakdown of Ovint St. Preux. He said that, people were like, why didn't you finish this guy? He's not on your level. He's not somebody that should have went 5 rounds with you. And John Jones said that out of everybody he's faced, Ovint St. Preux was one of the hardest to scout because not even OSP knows what he's going to do next.
Yeah.
He's so raw and green that he could find tendencies
but at this
in
point,
Daniel Cormier.
He can be raw and green. How can he be this green with that many fights under his belt?
Yeah.
He's such a weird cat.
Also underrated on the show, Ian McCall, really the guy that's came the closest to beating Demetrius Johnson at flyweight. He's finally supposed to fight this Saturday at 208. He has had 4 or 5 straight fights canceled in the last 6 months. Also, Wilson Hayes, who with a win very well could challenge Demetrius Johnson. He was once scheduled to face him. He could be right there with Demetrius Johnson in a title fight if he wins. Nick Lentz, who, if you remember, Shane, was a guy that people once said Conor McGregor was afraid to fight. Mm-hmm. If you believe that, he's on the card. It's going to be a fun show. I'm really excited for it. We got a podcast right after. Shane, tell the people before we go about some of your projects.
Every Thursday night, check out me and my protege, Trevor Lee, new X Division champion on Impact Wrestling. That's Thursday nights, 8 p.m. on Pop TV. Other than that, social media, I'm at Shane Helms.com, and that's universal on every platform. You can catch me here every week. You can also catch me on Keeping It 100 with Conan, and I am one podcasting motherfucker.
You are. Guys, if you want early access to this show and that Matt Riddle show, register for free at Fightful.com or subscribe to us on iTunes and Stitcher. Also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube. Leave us a thumbs up. Leave us any feedback. 5-star review on iTunes. That stuff's nice. I am back. I don't know. This drops Friday, so I'll be back for Elimination Chamber Sunday, UFC 208 Saturday. We got podcasts every damn day, guys. Until next time, send in those questions. I'll keep them. We'll ask them once a month. We'll do mailbag episodes. That way you all can get your shit in.
Get your shit in, kids.
Shane, I want to thank you for being such a good hand on this podcast.
Hey, man, I do what I can.
Hashtag good hand. Thanks, guys.
Yes,
catch you later.